Ego and the Magical Frog. Once upon a time, in a village called Etale, lived a young girl called Ego. Ego and her father, Udo, had just moved to Etale to start a new life after her mother and sister had passed away in a tragic accident. Ego and her father spent their first few days settling into their new hut and getting familiar with their surroundings. Ego set up her room and was happy with how it looked, but she felt lonely as she had no one to share it with. Before Ego's sister died, they did everything together, and now she was all alone. Ego spent her days with her father. She would accompany him to the farm and help him do some farm work. Afterwards, they would take the crops and sell at the market. This was how Ego spent every single day. One day, while working on the farm, Ego's father, Udo, noticed that his daughter was getting lonelier by the day. He wanted her to make some friends and stop following him to the farm every day. She was young and should be out playing with friends. He spoke to her and encouraged her to try and make new friends in their new village. Ego told her father that she was scared to try and make new friends. He encouraged her to take a walk around the village. You never know who you might meet, he said. Ego took her father's advice. She walked through the village, and then she ran into some women who were cooking by the fire. She was excited to talk to them and went over to them to say hello. She told them that she had just moved to Etale with her father and that her name was Ego. The women laughed her to scorn and called her poor and ugly and dirty, and that they had no interest in speaking to such a girl. Ego was heartbroken. She had never been told that she was ugly or dirty before. The women continued with their cooking and completely ignored her. Ego went home with tears in her eyes. She only wanted to make friends as she was tired of being lonely in their new village. Her father came home and tried to comfort her. He told her not to give up and to try again. This boosted Ego's confidence, and she promised to give it another try the next day. The next day, Ego went to the market. She looked around to see if there were any young girls that she could speak to and make friends with. And just then, a group of beautiful young women passed by. Ego was excited to see them. They looked friendlier than the women that were cooking the other day. She went over to say hello to them. The women at the market completely ignored Ego and carried on with their day. Ego refused to give up. Maybe her approach was not right, she thought. She would keep trying. She walked around the village and ended up at the stream. And she was surprised and happy to see the beautiful ladies from the market there again. This time, she said, she would do her best to make a good impression. Ego went over to them and introduced herself. She told them she was new in the village and that she was a nice young girl who was happy to be their friend. The women laughed and told Ego that a dirty, poor girl like her could never be friends with such beautiful girls as they were, and they walked away from her. Crushed, Ego thought, what was so bad about her that nobody wanted to be friends with her? Was it a crime to be new in this village? She sobbed and sobbed. Then, she heard somebody say sorry. She stopped crying and looked around. Who was speaking? The voice said sorry again, and not to cry. Ego was alarmed. Then she saw a little frog in the corner. The frog was speaking. Ego was alarmed and wanted to run away, but the frog begged her to stay and said that she also had no friends. Ego asked the frog why it was able to speak and understand, and the frog said she had no idea. Ego asked the frog what her name was, but the frog said she did not know. She had been living by the riverbank all by herself and had no idea where she came from or how she got there. Ego felt like they were kindred spirits, both all alone with nobody to play with. She offered to take the frog home, and the frog happily agreed. Ego took the frog to her house and showed her around. She took her to the kitchen, showed her where everything was, and took her to the bedroom and told her that she could sleep in the room with her. But she must not make any sounds whenever her father comes home, so as not to scare him. They made a pact to be friends forever. Ego was finally no longer alone. They played together, they laughed together, they sang together. When Ego's father came back home, he heard his daughter laughing from outside. He came inside and found that she was alone. He asked her who she had been speaking to, and she said no one. She was just very happy. Udo was happy that his daughter was in high spirits. He did not question how, but he told her to keep doing whatever it was that kept the smile on her face. The next day, Ego did not go with her father to the farm. She and the frog set out to go for a swim. On their way, they ran into the beautiful ladies from the other day. The ladies stood there expecting Ego to come begging for their friendship. They were already set to laugh at her when she walked right past them, completely ignoring them. They were surprised. Ego and the frog had a field day at the river. They swam and splashed each other with water and had a merry old time. Ego and the frog were enjoying themselves at home one afternoon when one of the girls from the village, Fenkili, walked past their hut. She heard all the fun noises coming from there and wondered who had made friends with the ugly and poor Ego. She peeped into their hut and was completely shocked at what she saw. Ego was talking and playing with a frog, and the frog was talking back to her. Nothing could have prepared her for the sight. A frog was speaking? She ran as fast as her legs could carry her and went to tell the rest of her friends what she had seen. They refused to believe her. How was it possible that a frog was talking? She told them that she saw it. Fenkili promised to prove to them that she was not lying. The next morning, Ego told the frog that she had to go and help her father at the farm. She kept food for her and told her to eat and stay indoors. She would be back to check on her in the afternoon. Ego walked as fast as she could to assist her father because she couldn't wait to get back home to play with her new friend. Ego rushed back home in excitement. She opened the door but could not find the frog. She checked everywhere. The food she laid out for the frog was still there, uneaten. She began to worry. With tears in her eyes, she searched the kitchen. She searched all around the hut. The new friend she had just made has gone missing. She was scared that somebody had found her or that somebody had trampled on her and killed her. Ego was heartbroken. Not only had she lost her friend, now she was back to a life of loneliness. She wept in her room. Her father, Udo, came back and asked what was wrong. But Ego could not tell him, for how could she explain to her father that a talking frog had gone missing in their house? Udo could not understand why his daughter was so sad. She was so happy just the day before. Her father tried to comfort her and offered his help, but there was nothing he could do. Ego would not stop crying. At a bush path, Fenkili showed the frog to the rest of the girls. They stood there and waited for the frog to speak, but the frog did not utter a word. Fenkili poked and pushed the frog, but it still didn't say anything. The girls told Fenkili that she lied, and they warned her never to waste their time again, otherwise she would no longer be their friend. They abandoned the frog in the forest and went their way. The frog was all alone on the bush path. The frog was so worried. This is the first time she had been in the forest. She did not know how to find her way back to Ego's house. She was so scared, so she hid in the bushes. The next day, Ego was taking the crops to sell at the market when she ran into the group of young girls she wanted to make friends with. They asked her if she was still interested in being their friend. Desperate for company, Ego said yes, and that she would do anything to stop the loneliness. They told her to go towards the bush path. She would find an old lady there. They told her to snatch away the woman's belongings and bring the item back to them. Only then would they admit her into their group of friends. This did not sit well with Ego, but because she was all alone and tired of not having any friends, she decided to give it a try. She went towards the bush path and found an old lady sitting there. But Ego could not bring herself to take anything from her. Instead, she asked the old woman if she wanted anything. The old woman told Ego that she was hungry and had no money to buy food. Ego felt sorry for her and gave her her basket of corn. The old woman asked Ego if there was anything she could do to show her gratitude for the kindness she showed her. Ego said she did not want anything, as she was just happy to help her. The old woman promised that she would fulfill Ego's deepest heart desire. Ego thought nothing of the old woman's words and left her there. When she returned to the young women, they asked her where the old woman's belonging was. Ego said she could not take anything from the old woman. Instead, she gave her some of the crops she had. They were so angry with Ego and told her she would never become their friend since she could not carry out a simple task which she was given. They banished her from their sight. Days passed and Ego's life went back to how it was before she met the frog. She would go to the farm with her father, they would go to the market, and she would return home. But one day, as they returned home, they found the royal guards at their hut. They had been summoned to the palace. Ego and her father were scared. They hoped they had not done anything to upset the royal household. When they reached the palace, the princess asked Ego if she could recognize her voice. Scared, Ego said no. The princess told Ego that she was the frog that she met at the river. Shocked, Ego could not understand. Why was the princess a frog, she asked. In the royal household, there were queens who were jealous of the princess. She was next in line to the throne, and they wanted their children to be the next ruler. So they turned the princess into a frog and threw her out of the palace. The princess narrated how she was in the bush path one day, and an old woman came and whispered some words, and she became human again. The old woman was the same one Ego had given some of her crops to. She granted Ego's deepest desire, which was to turn the frog into a human. The human was now the princess, and for taking care of her and being a good friend, she rewarded Ego and her father with lots and lots of gifts and lots of lands. They were never poor again. Ego was speechless. She could not believe how their luck had changed. She was grateful to the princess. The princess commanded her guards to arrest the young girls who had stolen her from Ego's house. But Ego pleaded that the princess be merciful unto them. The princess was so happy to see Ego. She threw her a big banquet and invited everybody to celebrate her. Everyone came out to celebrate Ego and her father. And from that moment onwards, she never lacked anything. Everybody wanted to be her friend, and she was never lonely again. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe and comment. It will help us. Thank you.